high school experience more than Chalmette High School principal Wayne Warner. After graduation in 1962, he vowed to return to the high school classroom. That decision became his life's passion. Named principal in 1973, Warner is now the longest-serving high school principal in the United States of America. From Vietnam through desegregation, from 9/11 through Katrina, its aftermath, and the rebirth of St. Bernard Parish Schools. The Warner Way, the 50-year legacy of Principal Wayne Warner, Sunday, September 29th at 7 and 9 p.m., only on WLAE. You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams as we always do. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all on our docket today. To break it down for us, I'm a little biased, but he's one of the best we have in the state. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is on our show today. Sean, how you doing, buddy?
Great to be back. I was here for the first show in this studio,
That's
so
right.
I'm good to be back with you on this September day here.
Yes.
So we're moving right along. It's fun.
Yeah, moving right along, and of course, eventually we'll get to the point where we'll be on our brand new set. Hope to have you again first on that set as well. So we'll see how we can do that.
It lines up. Yeah.
Before we get started, gosh, so many great programs over at Fox 8, and we're going to talk a little bit about the expansion of Fox 8 programming as well. But first of all, tell us a little bit about what's going on.
All right. Well, hope y'all have some time because we got a lot.
We got a lot.
So we'll just start Mondays at every night on Fox 8, with the exception of Saturday. There is a show. There is a sports show, half-hour show. Mondays, it's the Black and Gold Review with Juan Deuce McAllister and myself. Tuesdays, it's the Fox 8 Overtime Show, 10:35. Wednesdays, it's Game Plan with Juan Kincaid and myself. Thursdays, it's The Final Bet. That's Carlin Gillen's that's kind of his baby at 10:35. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm not, but nonetheless, we all contribute to that as a staff. Fridays, it's not always 10:35 because we have college football now on Fox, but it's the Fox 8 Football Friday Prep Show. And then Sunday, most weeks it's 10 to 11 Fox 8 Live Tailgate, and then obviously 10:35 the final play where we wrap it all up. I have a podcast, the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast, which is now on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, but also on the Gulf Coast Network that we've just started and launched. So check that out. There's still a lot. I can't be in specifics with programming yet because it's still very fluid. But obviously, it's a huge expansion for us at Fox 8.
We're going to get into that when we talk to Pelicans because, again, very exciting, again, to have the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network.
That's correct.
Coming online here as well. And for those that maybe just tuned in the program and said, why is E biased towards Sean? Well, again, Sean's dad and myself, Sean's dad is Mike, and myself have been lifelong friends. You call us brothers, right? I've known Sean since he was born. I was actually at the hospital on the day he was born. So yeah, again, a surrogate son for me.
Yes,
there you go.
It's been a heck of a ride.
Yes, it has. All right, Sean, let's get started here. First of all, I did not see the first 2 weeks coming with this team. Okay, everything we talked about, you're on our show constantly again, as you're on the radio show each and every week. You'll join us from California. And even last week, again with the loss, then there was some still positive things about you could see about this team, but it's very difficult to overcome, first of all, Taysom Hill, and then second of all, to lose, again, the quarterback, the heartbeat of your offensive line in Eric McCoy. I will back off here. You take it from there. You saw these guys through training camp. Again, you saw what Taysom meant to this team. And, of course, you were one of the ones that mentioned on the radio show a while back, you know, Eric McCoy taking more of, a leadership role on this team, not just the offensive line.
Well, first off, those are two foundational pillars, foundational pieces to this offense. And you can tell how much Clint Kubiak gravitated to both of those guys, okay? Anytime we asked Dennis Allen about his offensive line throughout training camp, and we watched every single snap of training camp and preseason, the ups and the downs, he would always say, well, I have two guys I'm confident in, Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy, and I have a few unknowns with some new guys. Eric McCoy was always number one, okay? And to lose him 3 plays in shell-shocked everyone in a game where you also didn't have the ultimate chess piece, the ultimate joker, as John Gruden calls him, the ultimate Swiss Army knife in Taysom Hill, who that offensive coordinator the first 2 weeks of the season heavily leaned upon to gather valuable information and intel, which helped him call plays. You take both of those guys out of the equation, I thought Clint Kubiak looked a little shell-shocked. I thought the play call, it took him a while to figure out what he could and couldn't do. It took him a while it felt like when he was out, they reshuffled, but they still wanted to do the plays that they were running with him in, and they couldn't do it with some of those power sets that they were running with the 21 and 12 personnel groupings. It wasn't until the fourth quarter when they finally went to 3 wide receivers where they were able to get a little bit of success running the football. Maybe a little bit too little, too late. Maybe it took them a little too long to figure that out. That happens in a game like that. You have to quickly adjust. But in saying that, they had a chance to win the game. So that's really no excuse for losing it because they were given ample opportunities by their defense. And really, they moved the ball in spurts offensively, at least enough to offset what the Eagles were doing on the other side. So losing Eric McCoy is huge. What they do from here with Eric McCoy, do they slide Lucas Patrick over? Do they add another piece? Now they signed, according to Nick Underhill, Chris Reed, who was kind of, from what I can gather, he crossed paths with John Benton, the O-line coach, back in Jacksonville, was when he was able to do so, at least as far as my research goes. There might be some added to that. I don't know. But nonetheless, you knew they were going to add someone at some
center
point.
Guard, center?
It's interior. So either way, if he's not a center, the deck has been shuffled. So now you need pieces that are moved around. So what do you do in this situation? That remains to be seen, and I'm very curious how they play it, because how they play it Sunday may not be the way they play it the rest of the time, because it's all about getting your best 5 and what you're able to do on a consistent enough basis when it comes to play calling. You cannot be stymied the way you were shell-shocked on Sunday. You're not going to be perfect like you were the first 2 weeks, but you got to find some kind of competency in running the football, because obviously an offense that dropped over 40 in 2 weeks all of a sudden drops down to 12. That's a problem. But that's two extremes on either side. You've got to find a consistency there. But Taysom Hill, look, I asked Dennis Allen about him after the game. He said, look, we ruled him out, but I'm hoping for this week. So I am holding him to that. We'll find out. This is obviously we're taping on Wednesday here, but I am hopeful that he is back. At least with him back, you have that element of information and versatility, and you have that advantage that no one else in the NFL has.
Expound on that if you would.
Well, because you Taysom Hill out with 2 tight ends, how do you play him? What are you playing with? Do you play him with a safety? Do you play him with a backer? You send him out as the fullback when the 21 personnel. How do you play him? Do you play him with a linebacker because he's now quote unquote the fullback, or do you play him with a safety, or are you playing light with a guy like Taysom Hill? If you send him out and he's the 3rd wide receiver, how are you guarding him? If you got 2 receivers on the field and all of a sudden you line Taysom Hill out as the 3rd receiver, and you got a strong side backer on him, that's great information. That's great advantage for the Saints. He's the only player in the NFL that can provide that information to you.
Yes. I want to go back to the offensive line with the loss of Eric McCoy. Obviously, you have seen mini camp. We're there in California for the training camp. You saw these guys again working out, etc. Huge blow. I believe that Patrick can play the center position for this team. He's played center. He's been a starting center in the league. I don't think that's the issue. The issue was, again, the leadership that McCoy brought, but also, again, he seemed to cover up for a lot of guys as well. Why don't you take it from here?
That's it. Okay, Lucas Patrick is a rugged veteran, very well respected. He was one of the more vocal guys out of training camp. Probably didn't talk about that enough. I mean, and he was a guy when he was signed, we all were like, look, it's only a matter of time where he becomes the starting left guard, and obviously that's what happened. But it's he could be fine at center.
I agree.
But it's the multiplication effect of Eric McCoy going out. Ruiz not as good because McCoy is out. Patrick, who was your left guard, now shifting over to center, who was a step down, obviously, from McCoy. Plus, he's out of his natural spot. I don't know if you call it natural, but more left guard than center, let's put it that way. Now, the left guard, is he even close or remotely close to what Lucas Patrick was giving you? So that's now 3 questions based off 1 injury.
That's right.
That's a major issue. And I don't think Aliudo played particularly well. It was a tough position to be in. But to be honest with you, I was a little surprised that he was the first guy up because Nick Saldiveri was the starting left guard for the first 2 weeks of training camp. And they had high hopes for him being that left guard starting. And he got injured, but he was already starting to lose his spot to Lucas Patrick even before the injury, because what they were doing was Patrick was the second-team center, so they weren't getting him all the first-team left guard reps. So that's when Saldiveri would come in and get the left guard reps to give Lucas Patrick some reps off, obviously some snaps off. So now you're in a situation where who do you turn? Is it Udo? Is it Landon Young, who has been cross-training a lot?
Right.
And that might be a decent spot for him at left guard. Is it Nick Saldiveri? And then obviously the depth takes a hit when you lose a guy like that. So all those factors must be figured out. But the good thing is this is a coaching staff that's very smart, in particular when it comes to the offensive line.
Yes.
They know what they're doing.
Right.
So they have a week to figure this out, and I have I have more confidence than I would have had this happen last year, but I have confidence in this group that they can figure out the best 5. Now, can they execute it in Atlanta? It's got a salty front.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Saldiveri. Obviously, again, they wanted him to start. He was starting in OTAs. He was starting in minicamp. That was the thing. They had their draft picks out. I didn't buy into it, but they did. Is he ready?
Look, he wasn't ready Sunday.
Okay.
He wasn't the first guy up. I mean, he was the second guy up, but maybe that was because Landon Young was still kind of battling an injury. So that's a great question. And he's got to instill confidence into that coaching staff, the confidence that they lost in him throughout training camp, because it's easy to point to the injury, but I am telling you, the shift was already made.
Yes.
Well before he got injured. Then he got injured. We couldn't say, and that's another thing. This is the back-to-back years he's dealt with a calf injury, which something's got to be done about these calf injuries. I don't understand how it feels, but it feels like it doesn't sound like it's a horrible injury, but it knocks guys. I mean, look at Christian McCaffrey right now. It knocks guys out. So. But I'm sorry, that's a little bit of a side plot. But nonetheless, I think Saldiveri is a guy they would love to have. He's the first 4th round pick from a season ago. Right. But I don't know if he's instilled the confidence yet.
Running game. Again, this offense is predicated upon the ability to run the football. We saw Alvin Kamara last year with not a lot of running room. We saw Calvin Kamara in the first 2 weeks with, gaping holes to run through. Not on Sunday.
No, and you see what happens when you don't have it. Now, let me just say, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter were very motivated. They've been called out all week in Philly. In Philly, they are relentless to their guys that they don't feel like are doing well. So they were motivated. So it's not that they wouldn't have had a good game, but I'm confident in saying having McCoy, they would not have been as disruptive as they were Sunday, but they probably still would have been disruptive. And that's a matchup thing when you talk about how you run things based off of certain personnel groupings. It's their preference to play power ball. It's their preference to have 2 tight ends. It's their preference to play with a fullback, because that gets certain bodies on the field that you like, and it dictates certain matchups when you want to go play action. But if a D tackle, or in this case 2 D tackles, are disrupting you at the point of attack, then you gotta counter. Right. So that's what I'm really curious about when it comes to Kubiak, because we know this: you can't step away from the run game in this offense. You might be able to, and at previous offenses, maybe able to throw it 50 times a game, and maybe you have a shot at winning the game. That's not going to happen in this offense. And if they're doing that, they're probably way behind in the game. That's not how they want to call a game. But you've got to reset the line of scrimmage. You've got to reestablish and regain the line of scrimmage, or it's going to be like this for the foreseeable future until McCoy gets back.
One of the questions I got was, again, about the inability to get the ball to Shaheed after having really 2 great games in his first 2 games. But a lot of that is predicated upon the offensive line, especially when you're talking about trying to have these long, deep plays developing. Take it from there.
Well, think of the 2 deep shots that they hit. Carr held it for an extra half a count on both of those. He didn't have that extra half a count in this game. They tried dialing it up. They tried dialing it up a couple times.
Right.
But, excuse me, when you dial up that, outside zone fake, and then you have to roll back around, that is a deep drop. And with the top of your drop, if all of a sudden Jalen Carter is in your face, one of 2 things that happen. Either you got to go dirt it, or you got to try to maneuver. And if you maneuver, the timing is now off to throw the deep post. Now, if you notice, he did give him 2 50-50 balls. Now, look, one was underthrown. He got hooked.
Right.
The other, I'm not sure he thought the ball was going to get there. But that's the next phase in Rashid Shaheed's development. He's got to be able to catch 50-50 balls.
Yes.
We all know you can run past everybody on the big post. But when it's one-on-one at the goal line, and it's a 3-0 ball game or 7-6 ball game, and points are at a premium, you've got to make that play.
One of my criticisms of Derek Carr over the last few years is his inability to stand in, take the pounding, hold the ball to the last possible second. We've seen that again with the great quarterbacks. I felt like he did that on Sunday, but one of the questions that I have for you is the lack of adjustments by Kubiak to move the launch point, to get him rolling out. We talked a little bit about it on the radio show yesterday. For the TV audience, give me your thoughts. That has to be part of this offense going forward with McCoy out 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, look, honestly, for whatever reason, I was so into the game that didn't even occur to me. And then when I went back and rewatched, I was like, well, he's a sitting duck back. Let's move the pocket here a little bit. Let's do some quicks. Let's soften this base up. Let's soften this. And we're getting a lot of, they call it bare front, where all the gaps were covered. They were coming in saying we're going to stop the run, and they felt like they had the D tackles to do that. So big. But when you get heavy guys up front, it's simple math and physics here. Roll them out, get a quick pass to a quick guy on the sideline, get a few.
You got the quickness.
Get a few yards. You certainly have that. So you got even a guy like Mason Tipton, he has that. So. I think that's something that they have to certainly look for. And I think that's a good adjustment to go to if your initial plan is not working, to, like I said, reset and regain some confidence and regain some rhythm in a game plan. Because after that first drive, they looks totally shell-shocked. And, a couple of questionable decisions by DA. It was 3-0 by the first play of the fourth quarter. 3-0 after they had just been blowing teams out the first 2 weeks of the season.
The 2-point conversion with no Taysom, that was a head scratcher for me. Again, not taking the 3 points was a head scratcher for me. Your thoughts?
2-point conversion that in no way, shape, or form is Jamal Williams the guy running that route.
No.
It has to be Alvin Kamara. So I'm not really as much into the Taysom Hill aspect as I'm into why isn't Alvin running that route? Because that route with Alvin, he catches it by his knees and walks in. I mean, we know that. And now we have enough data when it comes to Dennis Allen, and this is probably my biggest fundamental disagreement with him as a head coach. When he is faced with a short punt or a long field goal in a game, not in a situation where you can't really go for it. It was 4th and 8 at the 40-yard line. You're not going to go for that. His natural tendency is to, pooch punt it, play field position.
Right.
Points are at a premium. You have to get points. To me, we have to be able to trust our field goal kicker in 2024 to kick a 57-yard field goal. In particular, Blake Grupe, who looks like a much different kicker than what he was a season ago. I know he banged in that first one and it was ugly, but who cares? It went through.
Right.
So to me, give him a shot, add some points, get some rhythm. To not get any points out of that, and then obviously the one where you block the punt, it's not a good situation.
No, it isn't. All right, I want to switch to the defense now, because defense has been playing very well, but they've been playing with a lead. And that changes the whole dichotomy of a game. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the explosive plays, and again curtailing those. The one frustrating thing for me was the last pass for Goddard, where again Allen in his press conference comes out and says we knew they wanted to go there, but yet again you have the 3-player collision in the middle of the field.
Well, that play in particular, I did a film study on it, and Deuce and I rarely disagree, but we disagreed on this. Based off the alignment, you have Harris right here on the outside, and you have Jordan Howden about 10 yards down, and Goddard's right here inside. I think they're anticipating some kind of vertical route in that situation. Remember, it's 3rd and 16. They got the shallow cross. You see Jordan Howden break. but he's breaking with zero awareness.
Right.
So not only is he running fast, he's running fast right into his guys, and in a three-player collision. It looked kind of clumsy, honestly. It's something you would see in high school. You wouldn't necessarily see in the professional ranks. He catches it and goes. This is the one situation where you just can't let that happen. And look, you can criticize the man-to-man coverage, and I'm fine with that. They want to play quarters right there or a cover three, but they are a man-to-man team. They're usually a team that plays that two-man thing. And technically, this was two-man because they bracketed Dallas Goedert and they bracketed someone, I forget who it was, going over the middle of the field with Tyrann Mathieu. But here's the problem: of those players on the field, two of those guys weren't even on the website. So I mean, that's how you knew Goddard was getting the ball at that point. So to me, you've got to execute that better. You know what's coming, and you know the one thing that can happen is a 1-yard completion to Dallas Goedert in that situation. It was just a massive blow, a massive explosive play given up at the most crucial mistake at the most crucial time. And honestly, even if he gets the first down right there, I think you're still in good shape. If let's say it's 3rd and 16 and he gets 18, you're in good shape at that point. They still got to score a touchdown, but to get all the way to the 5-yard line, I mean, like that's just. It puts you in a terrible situation to close out the game.
The other part of it is, again, especially the second half, Barkley gashing the defense up front with the run game. And it was one of the things that we've talked about, again, the ability to stop the run. They weren't testing the first 2 weeks because they didn't have to. Teams weren't running against. They were trying to play catch-up. But they got exposed a little bit on Sunday.
Yeah, they did because they devoted so much to Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts, when he's giving it up, who did he hand off to last year? But it wasn't Saquon Barkley.
Right.
But him giving it up to Saquon Barkley is a whole different animal. So you got to be gap sound. You got to be able to be disciplined. You got to make plays when it's there. You cannot give up a 65-yard run. No. And he's done that to them in the past. He's been very explosive. He was a member of the Giants, the Saints in the past. I remember it was one of the Jameis Winston games back in 2021 or 2022. He was able to do that. So you have to be able to stop the run in these situations, but that has been leaky for the first couple of weeks of the season. You didn't see it because they were up 17-0 by the time you blinked an eye, but against Carolina, it was there, and that's Carolina. It's not Saquon Barkley. Was it Hubbard for Carolina? I think it was. But nonetheless, you're talking about a situation where that's got to get shored up. I don't know if it's a D-tackle thing, if Shepard's taking a step down, if they miss Colin Saunders that much, maybe that is the case. But they've got to show up that run defense because at the point of attack, they were getting beat. And if it wasn't for some of those takeaways that they had, you're probably talking about this being a much bigger issue for the team. But now they've kind of been exposed a little bit. They've got to get better in that regard. Between
the Philadelphia horrible coaching, and JT Gray blocking a punt, you figure you're going to win that game.
Horrible coaching and win the turnover battle, and you get a block punt.
Right.
That's normally a recipe for a blowout win, not a 15-12 nail-biting loss. So Nick Sirianni did not deserve to win that game.
Not at all.
Not at all. Did not deserve to win that game. Most NFL teams are not able to overcome that horrific of coaching decisions. And you got the 4th down stops. You got the big sack. You got the stop. You stopped the one time you stopped Saquon Barkley with Pete Werner and Chase Young. So you're talking about a situation where the Saints let one get away because you're not supposed to be that bad in the coaching department and still win. I'm not even sure. Let's just say they lose that game, and it's so egregious, Nick Sirianni. You might be talking about a guy getting fired, honestly, because they're that relentless in Philly when it comes to Nick Sirianni. They wanted him gone last year. They wanted him gone a year after they won or got to the Super Bowl. So it's a bummer because the Saints. I mean, we were asked, did the Saints get out coached? I said no, and not that I think DA did a great job, but they didn't make as many mistakes as that guy.
That's right.
And the Saints had ample opportunities and just couldn't take advantage.
Right. Man, different animal this week. First of all, it's a rivalry game. Obviously, again, there will be many Saints fans making the pilgrimage to Atlanta, for this game, Helene or not. But you got a team that runs the football. You got a team that has physical runners. You got they got a pretty good tight end. Now, again, one thing they've done is they've added some weapons in Atlanta. Defensively, you mentioned it up front, they are physical. They are physical. Talk about this matchup.
Well, a lot of ways you're playing yourself. I mean, you're playing your offense. I mean, Zach Robinson was the guy they wanted.
Now, right?
They wanted. Was it Robinson? He was on the short list for the Saints to be their guy.
Right.
And he went with Raheem Morris, obviously, to Atlanta. So, Yeah, you got to stop the run. You got to stop Bijan Robinson. Last time you were there, you probably should have won that game, but you couldn't get into the end zone. That was a big red zone inefficiency type game. Had the big pick six by Jesse Bates. They got Justin Simmons, who had a big interception against Patrick Mahomes. Arguably the best safety duo in the entire NFL. Grady Jackson, David Onyemata, Caden Ellis, Matthew Judon now on the edge.
Oh, yeah.
Terrell, the cornerback. They got some names.
They do.
Excuse me. They got some names in Atlanta. It's always been curious to me how it's never come together. Kirk Cousins, I think, is getting healthier. I think he looks a little bit better week after week, so he's going to be better this week, I think. So the Saints have their hands full against a team that they've had back-to-back games where it came down to the last play. They won, obviously, against Philly, but then they lost, obviously, to Kansas City. And they can't afford to fall to 1-3 in this division. So if you're the Saints, you've got to get to 3-1. Figure out a way to get to 3-1. They've got some injuries as well. So the injuries kind of offset.
Their center and their right tackle are hurt. The center's out 4 to 6. Their right tackle may play, but he's got an MCL injury.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, and if you're the Saints, you got to take advantage of that. I mean, look, we know the center stat. When the center goes out, it's just hard to overcome your starting center. So for the Saints, I guess for the Falcons as well, they're going to have to overcome that. I'm very curious how they match up, because I actually love the matchup of the Saints secondary versus their receivers. Ray McLeod, Drake London. Kyle Pitts, I think he's got a little bit better with Cousins, but I still like the matchup of the Saints secondary versus their receivers. Can they stop the run with Bijan Robinson? And can they stop the pass with Bijan Robinson, who catches the ball out of the backfield?
Right. No, they've got some weapons on that team. There's no doubt about it. Who do you like this weekend?
I like the Saints because I trust Kubiak to bounce back.
Okay.
I don't think Atlanta has quite hit their stride yet offensively, where I think New Orleans' case and the Saints' case, they understand how it's supposed to look, and I think what the Eagles did is now provided a blueprint. Okay, if we get that, we're struggling here, we can now do this. And I don't think you knew that the first 2 weeks because everything was so easy.
Is that predicated on Taysom being in the game?
I would think so. I think it's hard to overcome both those guys. But if Taysom's back, and we know Taysom's history against Atlanta, it's a good one. So I think when he's back, I think you'll see a much freer, a much more confident Clint Kubiak.
Udo the starter at guard?
That I don't know. I mean, he was the first man up.
Is that maybe because he was a vet?
Yeah, maybe. But also, I think Landon Young was a little hurt. I could see a case where Landon Young is the guy, honestly. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Overall, your thoughts on Fuaga, how he's performed?
Well, really well. I think he was the best offensive lineman in the game, honestly. Neutralized their pass rush, played well in the run game. Look, he talked to us after the game, said the 4th down run by Alvin Kamara that was called short. He felt like it was a first down, and if you really watch it, I'm surprised they weren't able to challenge that because it became really, really close, but the ball was in the other hand for Alvin Kamara. So I think Fuaga's been really good. I think he's been exactly what you need, rock solid at that left tackle spot. And look, he's a rookie. He's a plug-and-play rookie. It's not always easy to find those guys right away, but he's done it. He's been well.
Without McCoy on the field for them, and look, I still think Patrick can fill that. He may not be McCoy. He can fill that role as center. Can you still hide Penning? Can you still hide Penning the way they've been able to do schematically?
Yes, I mean, you can always put the tight end on that side. You can always chip the back on that side.
Remember, again, a lot of stuff with Reeves. Reeves has been helping a bit too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you can. Interior, can you do it? Again, this is back to the multiplier effect. No, you're not as good with it, but you can do it, especially off to the edge. So that's why it's imperative. They've got to get back to running the football very quickly. Because if you can't, and you're in obvious passing situations, you're kind of exposed on that side. And then you don't have the rest of the offensive line to be a stabilizer.
He's been a road grader in the run. Again, still struggling in the pass. But again, that personal foul penalty was ridiculous.
It was dumb. It was foolish. Luckily, it didn't cost him. But I'll say this. C.J. Gardner-Johnson had a very eerily simple, it wasn't a block, but he threw Alvin Kamara down the very first play of the game.
You let it go.
2 yards out of bounds. And that's a guy that's going out there. He's not hiding the fact that he plays dirty, that he plays with that type of chip, and he wants to start something every single week. I'm stunned that wasn't called the way Penning was called.
Me too. I am as well. All right. We'll take a break here. Hear from our underwriters. We come back. We'll jump into LSU, Tulane. Then again, when we finish up, we'll talk about the Pels. We'll talk about the brand new network that will carry the Pels as well. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is our guest. I'm Eric Asher. I'm your host. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is our guest. We turn to the collegiate game. LSU up first with, again, 3-1, a win over South Alabama. I'm sorry, over UCLA. They got South Alabama this week. 34-17. South Alabama was this week again at 6:45 at Tiger Stadium. All right, first of all, I got to ask this question. Who made the decision to wear purple jerseys in the middle of the day in September?
I have no idea. It was the first thing I thought of when I watched that. I mean, it was drastically, I wasn't there, but based off of what I saw in the East Side Stadium, where it was empty by the second quarter, apparently there was some medical situations that needed to be attended to. And I understand it's really, really hot in that situation. I have no idea why LSU would wear purple jerseys on a day like that. But those decisions, I don't know if it's an automatic thing, but I mean, it feels like, look, dude, it's going to be really, really hot. Let's wear white, but they didn't do that. Right.
Well, you had to know it was going to be a day game. You knew that again, the ABC was going to want to televise it, right? So I mean, at the same, again, put your opponent in the dark jersey. And you're right. I had friends at the game. They told me people were passing out. They left at halftime because of the heat as well. The heat was overbearing, and it was very hot on the field as well. Something that really wasn't talked about at this game as much as it was at the Tulane game, but it was hot in both places, no doubt about it. Okay. I'm going to get to the game in a moment, but let's first of all talk about Harold Perkins and his loss. First of all, ACL injury, out for the year. And remember, he is a junior. He has the ability to go to the pros if he'd like at the end of the season. Projected as a first-round pick. Brian Lazar of TigerBait.com was on my show about a week and a half ago, my radio show. And one of the things he talked about was that, because I'm asking the question before he's injured, why are we not seeing Harold Perkins in a position where he can affect the game? Inside linebacker is not his position. He's not going to be able to, again, he can't affect the game from there. And one of his comments to me was that, again, his camp had pressured the coaching staff.
That makes sense,
into putting him at the inside linebacker position so he can get ready for the pros. With that said, it's a horrible injury. Okay, again, he's been, again, you hate to see any collegiate player, anyone get injured. But again, they have to, when LSU has to, it's the next man up. So the question is here, who takes his place? And I feel that because they never utilized him the correct way since his freshman year, his injury will be easier to overcome because whoever's going to play that is going to be able to play the inside linebacker position.
That's just a fact. That's just a fact. I've been so frustrated with the Harold Perkins experiment, and that would make sense if you are that the Perkins camp wanted this, because Brian Kelly was so outward so early last year, a year before his draft eligibility, how much they wanted to get him ready for the pros. Clearly there was I want to do this or I might transfer out of here type of situation, if that, what you're saying is accurate. And then it happened again this year. But like this, he is a freelance football player. That's what he is on defense.
So take advantage of it.
He's a game wrecker. He's a guy, he's there to make plays behind the line of scrimmage. Either sacks, tackles for loss, whatever the case may be. Put him in position to do that. Him getting caught in the wash of trying to tackle, or him dropping to his own and trying to pick up a tight end or pick up a running back or a slot receiver. Done. He can't do it. He can't do it. So to me, this is not going to be hard to replace. It's going to be either Greg Penn or the Weeks brothers will figure out. Him, the linebacker, is not. Now, him, the disruptive pass rusher, unique pass rusher.
Game planning for him, right?
Yeah, I mean, that goes out the window. But honestly, they weren't doing it much anyway. So I'm not sure where you go. I don't think it's going to be a whole lot to to really, I hate putting it like this because LSU, I'm one of them, and I'm an LSU guy.
Right.
I mean, I hate putting it like this, but it's not going to be that hard to manage because he wasn't doing the things that he was doing his freshman year.
Agreed.
So what are you really game planning for with a guy like him? Braden Swenson's become the premier edge pass rusher. Savion Jones is helping on the edge. They're better there. A little soft at D tackle, but I think they've gotten better than perhaps people thought they would be. Secondary still lacks football IQ, in my opinion, but they're getting incrementally better on that side of the ball, and I don't think by losing Harold Perkins that you may have some massive drop off. Now he's got that lightning in a bottle ability, and we just hadn't seen it yet this season. So maybe it would have come at some point this season. We just haven't seen it yet.
And look, I get it. So I'm going to get emails about it. He was the 4th leading tackler. I would like to break down and see again how many of those were solo tackles, how many of those were assists. Because again, in my mind's eye, I see Harold Perkins trailing the play, coming up and getting into the pile. I don't see Harold Perkins making the initial tackle. I blame that on the coaching staff. I don't put that on Harold Perkins.
Well, I mean, it is on him. It is on him if that's what he wanted. If that's what he wanted to play, then it is on him. At some point, the coaches have got to. Like I said, I've never seen a head coach.
You got to do what's good for LSU.
Yeah, exactly. I've never seen a coach be that outward about the NFL projection as the main reason for him playing a spot. Before his draft eligibility was even there. So that always led me to believe that was more of Perkins people wanting to do that. So
I guess the next question would be, is he coming back? I mean, again, look, his draft stock's going to be hurt. Yeah. Okay. Is he going to be hurt on the pro scouts are going to see again how they can utilize him, how they can't. Should he come back for another year? Should he come back to LSU for another year?
Well, that's just it. I mean, I could see him come back to college. I could see him bypassing LSU. And he's hitting the portal. And he's not going to get a lot of NIL money. I know he was one of the higher NIL guys for LSU, both in recruiting and obviously to retain him. So, yeah, I think that's certainly because, look, he's not going to first-round pick right now. I mean, what he's shown the last year and a half is not first-round pick worthy. They can go back to his freshman year, but that was his freshman year. So, and don't kid yourself. I mean, the pros, they may know he has pass rushing ability, but he's an undersized pass rusher in that regard.
220?
At most. 25? I mean, at most. Yeah. So you're talking about an undersized pass rushing guy. So, yeah, you're talking about a situation where I don't think it's a slam dunk either way. So it might be in his best interest to come back somewhere in college football next year.
I think for him, I think he should. And again, maybe he needs to be in a. And look, I'm not telling him not to go back to LSU. But again, the thing is, again.
If you're LSU and you discover something with him out, I mean, do you just move on? Well, I don't know. Man, there's a lot. It's a tough situation, but it is what it is.
But I'm just saying, again, if he's not going to be able to play the position that he's going to excel in the pros, it is what it is at this point. All right. I want to stay with the defense for a moment because, again, South Alabama puts a lot of points on the board. I'm not saying, again, that LSU is in any danger of losing this game, but what I'm saying is, again, defensively they're going to be challenged. You talked about the secondary. That's, again, to me, where, again, I have been a proponent of starting to play young players. Yeah. Okay, they got a lot of young guys, again, 4 or 5 stars that have been sitting on that bench, don't have the experience. At some point, you got to take the experience. Now, again, the balancing act is you still want to win. You're trying to win the SEC. Can you do that with your young players? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's tricky. To me, it's got to. You saw what happened in the second half of that game. They stopped blitzing. Because the UCLA quarterback, who hadn't played very well before that, but all of a sudden, he just had a good knack for feeling where the LSU blitz was coming from. He was hitting the open, the weakness every single time. That's where all the bust came from. The second Blake Baker stopped blitzing, he was average. He was pedestrian. Look, I'm not talking about one-on-one back shoulders where a guy makes a play. I'm talking about plays where there's guys running sky free 20 yards downfield, and you're nowhere near the picture. There's no one in the picture for LSU. So those type of busts, that's why I called out the football IQ. I don't know if it's a coaching thing or if it's just some players just don't have it. They're getting confused in certain mix-ups, certain matchups, certain formations, and too much guessing and too much whatever the case may be. But to me, that should be fairly fixable because all you have to do in that situation is say, okay, guys, this isn't what I want to do, but because there's so many busts, let's just play man-to-man across the board. Let's have our linebackers back and rush forward and live with it that way. Yes. That's, to me, the best plan of attack. No coordinator wants to do that because it limits what you can do. But, I mean, it's about winning games at this point. So, yeah, I do worry about that. But I also think there is a counter to that where you could simplify and just say, all right, secondary, guard your guy. Guard your guy. If you get beat, you get beat. But guard your guy. Yeah. Please, no more coverage busts.
Well, that problem has been explosive plays for the defense.
That's it.
And it continues to be. And again, if you can curtail those explosive plays, you have an opportunity to be in every single game. On offense, the offensive line has not lived up to the billing until UCLA. Now again, is that a byproduct of the UCLA front being porous, not maybe being up to SEC standards, or is that this offensive line coming together? Your thoughts?
Well, the problem with the offensive line is not that it's bad, it's that there's a drop-off from pass blocking to run blocking. They're the best pass blocking O-line maybe in the entire college football. I mean, you saw that. Even in South Carolina, it took a minute to regroup from the atmosphere, and they were able to keep Garrett Nussmeier upright. It's one reason why Garrett Nussmeier is playing so well right now. So there's a difference between pass blocking and run blocking. Run blocking-wise, leaves a lot to be desired. But run blocking, this scheme, this gap scheme, where you're doing a lot of pulling, a lot of movement, you don't have the luxury of not having a blocking tight end. Your blocking tight end has to be one of your best blockers. And I don't think they have that. So I think that's key. And I also think outside of Caden Durham, they lack talent at the running back position. So running the football has been a problem, but it's been a threefold problem. O-line, tight end, and running back. And now, obviously, you don't have the Jaden Daniels factor where you can run his own read and have him ready. But I do think you can have a little bit of Garrett running the ball. Now, I don't think he has to just give it every single time. He's got good feet. You see his mobility in the pocket.
Absolutely.
So I think he can certainly keep teams honest. He can give you what Burrow gave you in that regard. So I think from a run game standpoint, it's getting there. But this scheme, how they want to do it, I think they really I think they missed Mac Markway, to be honest with you, the tight end that left before the season, because he was their blocking tight end. I think he's already torn his ACL. I think he's already out for the season. But nonetheless, you see why a blocking tight end is so necessary in this offense. They got a bunch of guys that want the ball. Green, Pimpton, and Mason Taylor. You got to block with this run scheme, and you can just tell they're just not comfortable doing that right now.
And again, look, running the football, you mentioned the running back position. Jackson looked like who we thought he was going to be with the 10 pounds of muscle that he put on. He did not look like that the first few games. Williams is Williams. Are you a Durham believer?
Yes. Who's been more consistent? Who's been better? Who saved the game in South Carolina? To me, and that's a position, I heard Jacob Hester say this on the radio, because I think he did it. That's a position you can come and play as a true freshman.
I agree.
And be competent. Because I mean, it's find the hole. I mean, most running plays are running plays. I mean, it's as long as you got that innate sense of timing, which not everybody does, but he seems to have that nice patience through the hole, that ability to bounce and regain speed and find daylight that I frankly, I thought Caleb Jackson missed it. Maybe he's getting that back a little bit. Josh
he looked a little slow, man.
Yeah, he looked really slow the first 3 weeks. Josh Williams is a trusted guy.
Agreed.
You can trust him to do certain things.
Block.
He's going to block, blitz, pick up, so I like him. I don't think he's got the top-end ceiling that a guy like Durham has. So you got to do what you do. I mean, you got to make do with what you have. But I think of the three guys that you've been rotating, I mean, I'm not breaking news here. I think Durham's been the guy.
Yeah, I agree. I'm of the opinion, and maybe this might be an opinion not shared by a lot, but Nussmeier's performed incredibly for this team so far. I think he should be on a Heisman watch list so far based on what he's done. I mean, we know he's got the arm. He's had that gunslinger mentality. You're worried about, again, maybe him losing games for you. He has been a solid quarterback for them, at times spectacular, but again, also been a game manager for them. I'm impressed.
I think we're not talking enough about the successful transition of a young gunslinger, let me just show off my arm, to a quality SEC point guard. That's what he's become. He's become a point guard. He's not taking unnecessary chances. He's really working the middle of the field. He sees the middle of the field as good as Joe Burrow did. I mean, Joe Burrow lived in the middle of the field. That was something it took Jaden a little while to get. But Nuss is further along in his first year than both Jaden and Burrow were, first year starting at LSU. So I think, I think he's a guy that he can do a lot, and he's a guy that's a point guard type of mentality. So I think he's doing well for LSU.
Me too.
I really do.
And I think, again, he can take this team to an SEC
I will
championship.
Say this. I want to see a little better, more consistency on the deep ball, but sometimes that they're just not there yet with the true deep ball. But they're killing guys in the middle of the field, and that's been fantastic.
Well, you had the emergence of Anderson, who's really helped a lot.
Absolutely.
Okay, I mean, again, he's not just a guy you could throw a screen to now. He can get deep. I love C.J. Daniels. I think he's untapped potential. Again, Lacey's still got problems and inconsistency in terms of catching the football. But again, he's your best receiver. He's got weapons. And look, what Mason Taylor has done at the tight end position. He's kind of changed the face of tight end at LSU.
Yeah, I mean, they've never really had one, not since Robert Royal, maybe.
Right.
I know Thad Moss was pretty good
right.
in 2019, but not since really Robert Royal, early
Yeah.
2000s, has there been a game-changing tight end the way Mason Taylor's done that. So, I mean, he is to Nuss what he was to Jaden. It's just old faithful, reliable.
Right.
I'm going to catch the ball. I'm going to be where I'm supposed to be. I'm going to catch it. I'm going to run. Not the biggest, not the fastest, but he is just a quality football player. So, yeah, I think it's been a good hookup.
All right, let's talk about the rest of the schedule here. South Alabama this week, open date, and then here it comes. SEC. I got it here for you, Sean. I'll go through it. Ole Miss on the 12th of October, at Arkansas on the 18th, at A&M on the 26th, open date on the 2nd, Alabama on the 9th of November, at Florida on the 16th, Vandy on the 23rd at home, and then Oklahoma to finish out the SEC schedule. Is this a team that, look, they're 14th in the nation, in the AP, I think, 13th in the coaches. Not quite a top 12 team. Again, I thought they'd be a top 12 team when the season started. I didn't feel that way after the first couple of weeks.
They're ranked where they're supposed to be.
Right, they're right where they're supposed to be. So, getting that, to me, Ole Miss is the litmus test for this
That's it.
team.
And I don't think Ole Miss has been really tested yet.
Right.
So we'll see where they're at when they meet Ole Miss. But every game on that schedule is winnable. The two you got to worry about, obviously, is Ole Miss and Alabama. This is not Nick Saban's Alabama. And
both are at home.
Both are at home.
Right.
And, you know, they've matched up well at home against Ole Miss. And we saw what happened the last time they played Alabama at home. So it really boils down to those two. I mean, if you can win one of those two, I think you're a playoff team. If you lose both of those, you're a 9-3 team on the outside looking in. But if you can get to 10-2 with that schedule, now Oklahoma doesn't look nearly as tough as they once did.
Yeah.
And obviously Texas A&M the same way. We'll see what happens with their young quarterback. But I think overall, LSU is set up for some success. And generally speaking, Brian Kelly's teams take a leap in October. I mean, May, but a leap in October, and we all do, and in November and into December. So I do think there is reason for optimism because what happens is you kind of figure your team out, what you can and can't do, and then you manage versus certain matchups. And I think they're in a decent spot. Now, they're not elite. They're not Georgia. They're not Texas, that's for sure. I say what you want about Ohio State. They're not elite. But I do think they can have success against the schedule because, you know, Ole Miss is scary, but I think you can match up against those guys. Yeah. Alabama, they've already done it, so I think they can match up with Alabama as well. So I am not nearly as pessimistic on this team going forward as some people are because I still think they can get to 10-2.
You know, you and I, again, we're in this business, so again, we watch games different than maybe fans do. Again, we're charting games, we're putting notes down, etc. I got to just say this. I enjoyed Monday Night Football like I've never enjoyed Monday Night Football before with, again, the Burrow versus Daniels game, to sit there, watch the game, and enjoy it. Your thoughts on that game?
I thought it was awesome. I mean, NFLSU on full display. I mean, I thought the best player on the field was Jaden. The second best player on the field was Joe Burrow. The third best player on the field was Jamar Chase. First off, I love that there were two games. I love there were two games on. There was Buffalo and Jacksonville, and then obviously Washington and Cincinnati. I do feel bad for the Bengals because I think they've been good enough to be 2-1, but they're 0-3 right now. I hope they bounce back because I love Joe Burrow.
Me too.
I think he's a great player. Jaden Daniels, welcome to the party.
Yes,
welcome to the show. Cliff Kingsbury, really nice job calling plays. So, yeah. Excuse me, I keep a little drip in my throat here, but yeah, I think it was a fantastic night. Everyone seemed to enjoy it except for Chris Canty of ESPN, who didn't seem to think Burrow did pretty well despite his team not punting. I mean, what are you supposed to do? I led him to a scoring opportunity on every single possession, but nonetheless, I thought it was a showcase for LSU. And look, it's so rare you have an opportunity like that in the pros for the LSU alumni like that. I thought it was an awesome night for LSU.
Well, again, it used to be DBU, right? Maybe it'll be DBU once again. It looks like it's becoming wide receiver U, and do I dare say quarterback U?
I mean, why not? I mean, you have Jaden, you have Joe, you have Nuss, who's going to be a draft pick at some
You got
point.
a 5-star coming in.
You got a 5-star coming in. So, yeah, I think they've successfully flipped the narrative on that from the Les Miles era, and it was so needed, obviously. Thank Joe Burrow for that. And Burrow was the catalyst. Burrow was the guy. But now it's a path you can come to be a quarterback and not go to have your career die. It's a career where you're just starting and obviously go on to the NFL and do great things.
In my lifetime, I've seen a lot of LSU and a lot of LSU quarterbacks. It's a different world today in terms of what it was when I was growing up or again through my lifetime. With that said, The Tulane Green Wave, again, winners over the University of Louisiana, 41-33. They have South Florida in their first conference game this weekend. That's 11 a.m. at Yeoman. Just another hot day. I mean, temperatures 136 on the field at Lafayette. Okay, but I will say this. What I love about this Tulane team so far is Mensah is growing as a quarterback. Now, they're not putting too much on his plate now. He only threw the ball 17 times, 11 for 17, 83 yards, one touchdown. But you're seeing again, after the turnovers that really cost him in one game, that, again, he's starting to take care of the football. And that is a great progression for him.
Well, that's where I need to go. I mean, you're just not going to be able to make the same plays you made in high school that you make at that level. And it cost him games. And look, I mean, you just look at it. You look very tangibly. I turned the ball over. Look what happened. So you have that embedded in your head. Obviously, you take care of the football. You don't want to be so handcuffed or you're not afraid that you're afraid to make a play. I think, Jared, you can find I certainly have a happy medium there. Look, I mean, how many scoring possessions they have against UL? It was quite a bit. I mean, they scored the ball a lot. I mean, 40 points, 41? 41-33. So obviously, they were able to, you know, kind of get it together. They ran the heck out of the football, which I think is the biggest ally for a young quarterback, is someone you can just hand the ball off to and let that guy just run. And that's exactly what they do.
That's what Hughes does.
That's what Hughes does. He's a playmaker. So they're in a good spot. I know the K-State lost and obviously Oklahoma State lost. Inside that building, they felt like they could win at least one of those games. Obviously, did not happen.
I think the Kansas State, when you look at the Kansas State loss, that turnover cost them.
Of those two, it kind of felt like that's the one that really sticks in the craw a
Oklahoma,
little
not
bit.
so much. You know, again, it is what it is. It's just another class there. But they could have beaten Kansas State.
Yeah, and I think they kind of know they let the one slip away, got the questionable call, but obviously the turnovers hurt as well. So it's a situation where you just got to battle back. And look, and when they get to conference play, certainly they can, you know, get to that and hopefully go on a run here. I like the direction. I like where they're at. They've got players, man. They've got good football players.
And he's a great coach. Summerall's a great coach.
He's a great coach, great communicator. Younger guy where if he has success, I'm not sure you're going to get the Willie Fritz factor where he stays for a few years.
But you knew that when you hired him.
You deal with that when it comes. So they're in a good spot. The program is in a good spot. I want to see them go on a run, though, here. Now they enter conference play.
All right. Now, again, Hughes, 23 carries, 160 yards and a touchdown. The offensive line dominated Louisiana. Here's the deal. The defense is leaky. Again, they are not stopping the run. Woolridge went off on him again, 238 yards through the air, 29 yards on the ground. He had 2 touchdowns rushing. The Tulane defensive backs, had 5 pass interference penalties, 5 pass interference penalties. Look, they could not handle the speed of again, the Raging Cajuns wideouts. They couldn't handle it. They could not handle it. Now South Florida can run the football. That's who they have this week. That's, again, coming out, so it's going to be a challenge for them at Yeoman, to be on the defensive side of the ball to tighten things up.
Well, look, the run game is back in football. The run game is back. I mean, the 2 high safeties have forced teams to now go big and go heavy and run the football, control the line of scrimmage because defenses have gotten light. So now you got to add that back in. Used to be, over the last 5-10 years, if you weren't great against the run, you could somewhat survive that. But now that's coming back full force. So if they cannot stop the run, you really can't stop anything because everything else opens up. I mean, you read the stats for Woolridge, the quarterback. So you're talking about a situation where they better shore that up very quickly because it's on tape now. And if you can't stop the run, teams are going to force you to stop the run. They're going to keep running it until you say, we're going to stop you and take that away. So it's up to Tulane to do that.
I agree. And the first test is going to be this week against South Florida, no doubt. All right, the big story this week is Tulane, Memphis, South Florida turning down the Pacific Athletic Conference, Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12, who knows what it's going to be, and staying in the American. I was not for it. I felt like, again, moving to to play in a conference on the West Coast did not make sense logistically. I would have, in my opinion, was stay in the American Athletic Conference, wait for the ACC or the Big 12 to expand. They will eventually. It's going to happen. Get your facilities in gear, put some money into your athletic program, win, and they will come for you. Your thoughts on not going to the Pac-12?
Yeah, I'm a little bit behind this story, but just have been able to catch up a little bit on it. When you go to the West Coast for games, a lot of times, you know, I remember when the Saints would do it, they would go a day early because of, you know, getting acclimated to the time zone.
Right.
Well, when you go a day early for a professional football team, that's one thing. You go a day early for a college team, college program, it's a lot more money to spend.
Right.
The air travel, all the logistics of playing on a West Coast league with a bunch of teams on the South and East Coast really geographically just did not make much sense. I understand the allure.
Yeah.
Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-8, whatever
What
it was
used
going
to be.
And that's a major conference.
Right.
You can get into Power 5, whatever. I've always said Tulane, that needs to be their next goal, get to a Power 4 or Power 5, whatever the case may be. This was not the right time. Clearly, everybody looked at Memphis. Memphis was the team that was going to either push them or deny them. And obviously, they felt like it was in everyone's best interest to stay put. And I can't say I blame them. I can understand, though, you know, who knows, Pac-12, maybe you get a better TV contract, maybe that helps with revenue.
Right.
But, you know, if you don't have that insured, if you don't have, or if you have a plan in place that could be better, it's probably in their best interest to stay put, especially with, you know, a conference now it's very winnable. I mean, it's very winnable right now if you're Tulane.
Right. Well, here's the deal. First of all, there's no guarantee that whatever ends up with the Mountain West now, they're trying to pull those teams in. That again, the Pacific Athletic Conference will ever be a Power 5 conference again. Okay, there's no guarantee on that.
They're the old Big East, right?
Right. Good. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
So there's no guarantee there. So again, you're rolling the dice there. The cost, logistics, travel. Again, not just for the major sports, for the minor sports as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about again a whole.
You only
program.
travel one game a week for football, but it's multiple for basketball and baseball and all the games.
It made no sense to me. To me, concentrate on what you can concentrate, what you can do. And again, finding out this week, David Harris, the athletic director, saying that they're not going to build the bubble on the original site. They may do it on the Claiborne site. They're back to the drawing board. That to me is more frustrating than again not going to the Pac-12.
Well, absolutely, and that should have been done. That should have been done. It's inexcusable that that program and then a university with those types of funds could not get I understand they're landlocked, but that should have been in the works for way more than now. So whether now they're back on the drawing board, back to back to the beginning.
What's it going to be? 3 more years? 5 more years?
I've never dealt with any kind of construction, major construction project. I mean, if you're just starting, maybe 3 years in time it'll get done. I mean, and there's a lot of things you got to deal with logistically and cost, and the cost is never what you expect it to be. And then you got to find a spot. I mean, where are you going to go? So to me, that's a fumble. That's a drop of the ball by Tulane.
Well, I mean, again, college athletics is different. It's an arms race. There's NIL. There are amenities that players are demanding now as well. And again, if you don't have those, you can't compete. So you're telling me you want to go to the Pac, okay, whatever, but yet you're not willing to be able to do the things that you need to do to make sure that, again, you can excel in the American Athletic Conference. Look, the other schools in the AAC, they're building facilities. They're putting money in their programs.
Of course, and that's always been an issue with Tulane, and it almost felt like, you know, they got the stadium built, that's great, but it always felt like they were just kind of passing by with that. Now I think it's a necessity if you want to compete, and they've got to taste the success. Do the things necessary to keep that success going.
I'll put you up against the clock, got about a minute. Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, home of the Pelicans.
Home of the Pelicans, so you'll be able to watch it for free over the air on the Gulf Coast Network. We have a few games on Fox 8 as well. Again, I can't get too far into where we're at from cable companies and that sort of thing, but in the meantime, you can get your the old school rabbit ears, whatever the case may be. We're thoroughly excited about it. Like I said, our podcast is going to be on it. We're going to have significant content upgrades on that station. So it's going to be a fantastic thing, a fantastic home, because the previous situation with the Pelicans was not doable for the majority of their fan base. That goes away, and it's not just here in New Orleans. It's obviously a regional thing. So now you have basically your own regional network right here in the city of New Orleans. So I think it's a fantastic time for Pelicans fans, and you know, I just think it's a fantastic time for sports fans in this region that deserve something like this. I think that we really do deserve something like this. You see it in other big markets.
You do.
It's time to bring that down to New Orleans.
I think it's a great move. Great move for the Pelicans. Great move again for great television as well. Sean, thanks as always. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Sean was in Fox 8 Sports. the band. Does a great job. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, so many ways to catch our program. There's a QR code on your screen right now that'll take you again to WLAE-TV YouTube channel, also to my website, ericasher.com. Again, check your listings again between Pelican Sports Television, WLAE, and our subsidiaries. A lot of ways to catch the program, including on the YouTube channel, which is there for you always. All right. You catch me on the radio, 106.1 The Ticket. You can listen live at ericasher.com. The Ticket we have our own app now, 106.1 The Ticket app. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, other digital platforms. Our podcast is everywhere. Anchor Spotify is our home base. We're on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside New Orleans Show with Eric Asher. And also we want to thank the underwriters of our program who make this program possible. Each and every one of those underwriters, again, supporting our program. Please support our underwriters. One of the reasons why this show is on the air. We want to thank our friends here at WLAE-TV who produce our program and do a fantastic job. Rod Yeager, Jim Dotson, also Alex Chacon, and our director, William Hill. For Sean Fazende, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
No one loved his high school experience more than Chalmette High School principal Wayne Warner. After graduation in 1962, he vowed to return to the high school classroom. That decision became his life's passion. Named principal in 1973, Warner is now the longest-serving high school principal in the United States of America. From Vietnam through desegregation, from 9/11 through Katrina, its aftermath, and the rebirth of St. Bernard Parish Schools. The Warner Way, the 50-year legacy of Principal Wayne Warner, Sunday, September 29th at 7 and 9 p.m., only on WLAE.
Hi, I'm David Holland, a certified financial planner practitioner and the host of Plan Stronger TV. On this show, we feature